we're going to be discussing some tough lineup decisions that Billy Donovan may have to make in regards to Isaac Okoro and Nikola Vucevic. We're also going to talk about the Bulls' biggest strength, which is the new and improved bench mod. We're going to be doing that. The Bulls boast the NBA's best bench unit, and we're going to also talk about why tonight's game against Portland is a lot more dangerous than some people may think. Billy has some tough calls to make, but we're going to be discussing it all and more and diving into the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to start off this episode talking about a couple of tough decisions. It's something that has been discussed very heavily amongst the Bulls fandom at this point, and it's two starters specifically, Isaac Okoro and Nikola Vucevic. Now, I think these are two wildly different scenarios, and I'm not comparing them as players or their impact to the team overall, but I'm just more so saying that this is, as the season goes on, this could be one of the tougher decisions that Billy Donovan has to make. Let's start off with Isaac Okoro, right? Isaac has been a mixed bag for the Bulls. Like, there's some good shooting nights, absolutely, from Isaac Okoro that you just can't deny that he's shooting the ball pretty well, right? And then, of course, he wasn't necessarily brought in here to shoot the ball. He was brought in here for defense, and the defensive aspect itself too has kind of gone up and down. Now, I do think there are some factors into that, for example, right? Like, one thing that I think we're discovering about Okoro is that he is not really good at guarding up, which, I mean, depending on how you want to look at that and judge him for that, you'll have a difference of opinion on it, but he's not a great player at, like, guarding up to fours and things like that. Like, you know, we try to use him like Lonzo, which we're able to put Lonzo on some centers, right? And Isaac Okoro, while a toolsy defender, is not nearly in that spot that Lonzo has been able to be at as a defender, right? I think that that's something that's being shown there. He's going to have some really good nights defensively, but overall, too, there are going to be some nights where, just because of the way that we use him, like I think back to the Utah game, Larry was giving him the business, and it came down a lot to just length, right? Isaac Okoro's barely 6'5". He does have a longer wingspan, but against 7-foot Larry Marketing, it was clear and evident he couldn't do much. So then you have this dual kind of thing with Okoro. It's like he offers a lot defensively, especially in a starting lineup that lacks a lot of on-ball defense. But, you know, for us to do it, we need to do it as a team. And then you look at the double-digit scoring days, right? Like the scoring splits for him are just, they're bad. Like against Denver, 1 for 3. It's why he only played 20 minutes. Now, he played 40 minutes in a double overtime game against Utah, but shot the ball 28% from the field overall, only 5 points. Then you have the nights against, like, Detroit, where he goes 5 of 7 for 15 points. Or he went 5 of 7 against the Cleveland Cavaliers for 19 points. Or 5 of 8 against Philly for 16 points, right? So, like, there are some nights with that. And it comes down to, would the Bulls be better off with a little bit more consistency? Now, you know, I know a lot of people are going to go to Ayo. Ayo's on an absolute tear. But Billy has also said flat out that he appreciates Ayo's ability to change the pace and the energy that he brings coming off the bench, and thinks that that's needed. So then you have to ask yourself, all right, who's the next candidates that could come in and start? If Billy Donovan is locked in to Ayo being that lead guy off the bench, that's fine, right? But then that leaves Kevin Huerter. It leaves Patrick Williams. I think other than that, if you want to think outside the box, you can go move Modest to the 3 and maybe start Jalen Smith at the 4, which Billy Donovan really doesn't like playing him at the 4. He's basically been exclusively a 5 here. And so that's some questions that you may have to ask yourself as this season goes on. But I want to be clear here. I do not think any of these decisions are going to be made until after Coby White is fully back integrated, back into the starting lineup, off the minutes restriction, and then we get to see what Okoro looks like with Coby White in the starting lineup, in the projected starting lineup of Giddey, Coby, Okoro, Modest, and Nikola Vucevic. Then I think you could see, a decision made on if you're not quite getting the right energy that you need based off that or the performance. But Isaac Okoro is something to look out for, and a player that a lot of Bulls fans are asking, like, all right, what are you actually bringing? And again, it's unfair because I think a lot of what Okoro brings does not show up to the stat sheet. And as we've talked about before, the majority of fans that are they don't have time to dig into the advanced analytics. They go off what they see, they look at the stat sheet, try to confirm it, and that's what they see. No problem with that, but that is what it is. But like I said, Okoro isn't even necessarily even doing the best in those areas either, which brings about some of those questions as well. So there you go on that one. The next one is Nikola Vucevic. I mean, a lot's been made over Vooch over the last, couple week or so, basically, especially over the losing streak. And the problem with Vooch is this. Nikola Vucevic is actively hurting your team. It just is what it is, right? And while I do not think that Vooch is going to be benched, I know that's a thing that's popped up recently. Is Nikola Vucevic going to be benched? I doubt it. I don't expect it. Billy Donovan, I don't think he's going to make that big of a change to his lineup. I think on top of that, the Bulls do have some hopes to maybe explore some Nikola Vucevic trade value, and benching him before you try to move him may not be the best political thing there, right? Like, so there's that part of it. Like there is that part of it. There are politics involved. But then I think when you look at Vooch just plainly, when Vooch is in the game, in the 409 minutes that Nikola Vucevic has played for the Chicago Bulls, we have a negative net rating of 6.1, an offensive rating of 113, a defensive rating of 119, which is not bad, not good. You want the defensive rating number to be low, right? So then when you look at versus that, the 225 minutes where Vooch is off the court, we actually have a net rating of plus 10, an offensive rating of 124, and a defensive rating of 113. Our pace also increases a little bit as well. It's not as big of a difference as what you think with Vooch on or off, right? We have a pace of 101 with him on the court, a pace of almost 103 with him off the court, but we are playing a little bit faster. Our turnover percentage goes up with Vooch on the court as well. And these are just things that you see. And, things that we used to talk about with Vooch, like, his passing, he keeps the team connected and those type of things. The assist-to-turnover ratio is about the same when Vooch is on the court or off the court, and that's mainly just because now we have such good ball handlers at almost every position and really solid passers at almost every position. But the problem is, I think that we have an easier fix to it, right? I don't expect them to bench Vooch, but all Billy Donovan has to do is what we've been calling and asking him to do is better recognize when Vooch doesn't have it, right? And if Vooch doesn't have that game, and for example, Jalen Smith or when Zach Collins comes back, they are rolling in the fourth. You don't have to play Nikola Vucevic 25 minutes every game. You just don't. And that's where Vooch is at this point in his career. It sucks, right? Because I talked a lot about the offseason, how I didn't think the fall off was coming for Vooch because of his style of play and all that type of stuff. The fact that it isn't based hugely off athleticism. But there's no reason right now that Vooch should be averaging 31 minutes per game, whereas Jalen Smith is averaging 16. I think those minutes should be closer to about even, right? I think you probably can get them closer to where both guys are averaging 25, 24-ish minutes per game, right? 24, that's right in between. I think you can get closer to that. And again, let that ebb and flow based off what, like there are going to be some games where Vooch does have it in the fourth. We saw, and it was more because of Jalen Smith getting hurt, but we saw it against Denver. Vooch hit a big 3 for us, right? So there are going to be some games where Vooch is playing well, and you want to ride that momentum. And I think that's fine, right? But you have to better recognize when Vooch is not playing well. And, again, I think this is going to be a long-term thing. We're going to see how it works out as, the Bulls get back fully healthy and actually get to see their full rotation. But it is 2 lineup issues that I think are very pressing for Billy Donovan to kind of figure something out for, because it is hurting us in some areas. So we'll see. I mean, we're coming out. We just snapped a 5-game losing streak. We're going to an easier part of the schedule. Let's see how those things you can use, that stretch. Over that stretch, you're going to get Coby White off the minutes restriction and off the back-to-backs. You're going to get Zach Collins back at some point over these next 12 games as well. Hopefully Trey Jones come back, and then we'll really start to see exactly what this full lineup looks like for the Chicago Bulls, and then be able to start making some tough decisions. But all right, with that said, from a negative to a positive, right? I want to talk about something that's coming with this, that has been developing with this bench, with this Bulls bench. And it's not exactly what you think. Like, we know that the Bulls had a potent bench. I've talked a lot about coming into the season how deep the Chicago Bulls team was going to be. But we are developing a 1-2 punch off the bench in Ayo Dosunmu and Jalen Smith that I think is something that Billy Donovan really got to look at and really start, trying to manipulate how you get those guys out there on the court a little bit more often, right? Ayo and Jalen more recently has come on and played really, really well for this Bulls team. And I think this 2-man unit, we'll get into the numbers of them both on the court together, but let's talk about them individually first. Ayo Dosunmu is averaging 15 points, 2.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He's doing that on 50, 40, 90 shooting, 55% shooting from the field, 46% shooting from three, 90% shooting from the free throw line, right? And he's doing that like with not a lot of shots. Ayo Dosunmu is not getting a lot of shots on this Bulls team, which is why some people raise questions of things like, for him, should he be a starter or not, those type of things. But he's doing this all on only 10 shots per game. Ayo is one of the most efficient basketball players in the league this season, right? Now, again, he has a lesser of weight on him at times than a lot of other people, but he is still one of the most efficient per his role and per the production. He's one of the most efficient players in basketball this season so far. Now, we're early into the season, 13 games into the season, so there's a lot that could change. But when you pair that with Ayo Dosunmu's defense, it's been great to see. And then you pair that in with Jalen Smith, who's averaging 10 points per game, 6 rebounds, 1.4 assists on 48% shooting and 40% shooting from three. That's 25 points per game off the bench from just those two players. Now, let's talk about when they're on the court together. Ayo and Jalen Smith have played 131 minutes together. In that time, they have a net rating of plus 17.2, an offensive rating of 130, which is amazing, and a defensive rating of 113. That is amazing. They're also playing at a pace of 103, a 66% assist percentage, low turnovers. They have a 2 to 1 basically assist to turnover ratio. There's something to be said about how this unit plays together. And then when you look at the minutes that we've had from the total, or what we project to be the bench unit, so that's Tre Jones, Ayo Dosunmu, Jalen Smith, Patrick Williams, Kevin Huerter, right? That's your bench unit that you're looking at, right? Those guys are have a net rating of plus 16, an offensive rating of 123, a defensive rating of 106, and they are keeping up the same pace as 103. We're 5-2 in games where we play that lineup at least 20 minutes. This Bulls bench is developing something. And I get it that Tre Jones was a lot talked about of his impact early on, but this bench unit with Ayo Dosunmu, Jalen Smith, and when you throw in how Kevin Huerter has been both offensively and defensively, the Bulls are already leading the NBA in bench points per game. We're 4th in the NBA in total points scored off the bench over the course of this season as well. This isn't just a gimmick. This is a legitimate weapon in the Chicago Bulls arsenal that you're looking at that you can continue to build off of. 625 bench points so far scored. 4th in the NBA in that one, right? When you also look at that group, the bench unit, we are 3rd in 3-point shooting percentage at 40.4. Which is really good. We get the 8th most free throw attempts per game at 8.8 coming off the bench as well. We hit those at an 81% clip, which is second best in the league. The net rating of 2.9 that the bench unit has is 5th amongst all bench units in the entire NBA. You know what that says? This bench is a legit weapon. I know a lot of people are talking about it after Denver. The 66 to 9 point, the difference between the bench scoring and for the Bulls and the bench scoring of the Denver Nuggets, which are another deep team, is something to look at. But this team is really doing something here that we haven't seen since the Tibbs era, and that is having a legit bench unit that can come in and change the energy of the game, can keep up the pace with the starters. We just haven't gotten to see a lot of it. Tre Jones has been in the starting lineup. Zach Collins hasn't even played yet in this NBA, in the NBA yet, right? And so, this season in the NBA. So you're talking about a bench unit that's already leading the NBA in a lot of the production areas as far as bench units. You're adding Zach Collins. You're bringing Tre Jones back to that bench unit. Kevin Huerter, who's been a starter for the last few games, you're bringing him back to the bench unit as well. The Bulls can have the best bench in the NBA by a country mile when you look at the offense and defense. Now, a lot of that's theoretical based off if Zach Collins is who he was last season for the Chicago Bulls. And if he is, that's going to be great because he had an amazing impact for the Bulls as well. This bench unit is just getting started. And that goes to say a lot with this team overall that is just getting started. And that's something that, the more so naysayers and things don't want to talk about with this team, and that's perfectly fine. It is what it is. I'm somebody that I understand until you prove it. It is what it is. But you're talking about us last year with Zach Collins on the court having a net rating of 4.3 and a defensive rating of 109. Anything sub 110 defensively is above average in the NBA. You're adding him back to this team as well. I'm telling y'all, for everybody that was out on the Bulls, considering the tough schedule that we started with and how easy the schedule gets at points in time on the season, and us having basically the weakest schedule left the remaining way of the NBA, This team is not done making their move yet, man. And this bench is going to be something that Billy Donovan, this coaching staff, this is a luxury that a lot of teams don't have. We saw it in the Denver game. That bench unit came in and changed the energy of that game off the rip. Now you talk about strengthening that even more, and I tell you what, could be off to the races, man. But I wanted to spend some time highlighting Ayo Dosunmu and Jalen Smith because their bench production has been excellent. Not just good, but excellent. And Jalen has to continue to show that he can do this over more time for sure, right? Like we don't want to act like Jalen has had some inconsistency issues. We know that right now he's listed as questionable with his with that shoulder injury, so we may not even see him in this game. We'll see how that works. But over the last 5 games, right? Let's just look at the last 5 games for Jalen Smith. 12 points per game, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. He's doing that in less than 18 minutes played. 50% field goal shooting percentage, 50% from 3. I tell you what, if Jalen can even be 75, 80% of what he's been over the last 5 games for the entirety of the year, he's one of the best bench bigs in the NBA. And he changes the tone for this team so much if he's able to do that. The question just comes about consistency for Jalen. And I guess we got to give him that opportunity to show that consistency. And we'll see what we have on the other side of that. But that's my time. I wanted to talk about the bench unit. I wanted to discuss that. Let's move over to the next topic. The Bulls do have a game tonight going down at 9 p.m. Chicago time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Bulls versus the Trailblazers going down today. Now, the Blazers are coming into this struggling a little bit. They're 1-4 in their last 5, but guess what? The Bulls are also 1-4 in their last 5 as well, right? So we cannot overlook this team by any stretch of the imagination. This is a solid, scrappy basketball team. I've said many times before, they remind me of the Baby Bulls era. They are just that scrappy. And you look at it, they're 22nd in defensive rating, 17th in offensive rating, and that's not overall great. They're 20th in overall net rating. But this is a team that's beat some good teams. Now, some of these teams were missing players, but they've beaten the Warriors, the Lakers, and the Nuggets at points this season. Drew Holiday and Jeremy Grant did not play last night's game. They are coming into this game on the second of a back-to-back, so they could very well miss tonight's game as well. But what the Blazers like to do, they like to force turnovers. They defend the three-point line extremely well, right? So the Bulls are going to have to set the tone in this game, rebounding and defensively first. If you do that, you can set up your offense in a much better position, and you have to find a way to do that. This is the team that's 10th in steal percentage in the entirety of the NBA, but they are 30th in defensive rebounding percentage, which means the Bulls can really get after it on the offensive boards against this team. But they are second in offensive rebounding. So the Bulls have to defensively rebound well again to set themselves up offensively. Over this 5-game streak where they're 1-4 over this last 5, they have a net rating of negative 7.9. They have the second worst defense in the NBA over the last 5 games as well. And their offensive rebounding has also slipped a little bit, whereas their defensive rebounding has stayed about the same. You got to look out for that. This team likes to force turnovers, like to get out in transition, and they have some players that are absolutely balling out for them right now that you got to look out for, right? Who's going to guard Denny? That's one of the biggest questions that's coming into this. Denny Avdija averaging 25 points per game. You got Shaedon Sharpe averaging 22 points per game. Jeremy Grant and Drew Holiday are their next 2 leading scorers after those 2, but we already talked about they may not play today. They did sit yesterday. Probably means that they probably will play today, but something to look out for with that one. And Tamani Kamara, you can't talk enough about what this dude brings defensively to this team. Bulls got to watch out in this game. We've already lost games to like the Pistons team that were missing some players. The Bulls cannot overlook anybody this season. And if they want to keep getting in the win column, this is a game where they have to come into and they have to be playing tough on both sides of the ball. If they can do that, they can win this game. But it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be light. And we got to see that Bulls team that fights with that sense of urgency that we have. And the starters have to start off this game with better energy than they have the last few games. You can't keep relying on the bench to set the tone. Come in for the bench to put the tone over the top, but don't always allow your bench to set the tone. Let's see if the starters can do that tonight against the Portland Trailblazers. If they can, the Bulls can get a dub here, but we got to see what's going to happen. But with that said, we got one voicemail I want to get into. This one's from, as far as I know, first-time caller. This one's from Joda.
Hey, Hayes, it's your guy, Joda, up here in Lake County. Okay, so I was watching the game last night. I watch every game, but watching the game last night in, the Denver game that we were playing. All right, so here's the deal. I don't think it should have been that close. I think we could have beaten them by a lot more than that. And I said it before and I'll say it again. When we run and gun, when we do it the right way, man, I don't think there's too many teams who can keep up with us, by the way, when we do that. Two things. Vooch, I know that we're all talking about trading Vooch and getting this for Vooch and getting that. Dude, seriously, you give me a bag of Fritos and a cherry slushy, I will take that. Okay? It doesn't matter what we get for him. It doesn't. And I know you say there is no market for him. Okay? Somebody will do it. All right? Listen, you go that long against Denver and you don't even have 10 rebounds for crying out? No. And he's so emotional. He's like a little girl out there. But yeah, no. And the other thing is we need to stop and recognize when the three is not falling. I keep saying this. If you were to drive every single time instead of that and get fouls and go to the line and hit twos, you don't worry about threes at that point. But what do I know? I'm just Joda. All right, talk to you. Bye.
I'll say this. The Bulls can't hold on to leads. That's something that's been evident so far, right? We have not been able to hold on to leads, and it's going to eventually come back and bite the team in the ass. And hopefully over this stretch of easier games that they really learn to put teams away and do that more consistently. When you have a 15 and 18-point lead, there's no reason why coming down the stretch it should be a 2-point game. The Bulls have to learn to hold on to those leads, keep the intensity up, stop falling in love with the 3-point shots like you talked about, right? Like, taking those shots early in the shot clock are absolutely killer. And it hurts your team. It hurts the momentum. It gives the team the ball back for a chance on a fast break. It's stupid. I just want to see less like early shot clock, 3-point shots. Actually try to work around the defense before you take a 3-point shot. I think that they need to do. Let's stop spamming threes. I think we can get better in that area. As far as Vooch, nobody's taking Vooch right now. I know you say just move him, but here's the thing. If you were to, with Vooch, how he's playing right now and his value, you'd have to give up something valuable like the Portland pick just to come off Nikola Vucevic. And it's not worth doing that. It's not that much, especially when he's a free agent at the end of the year and you can let him walk. It's not that bad to let him to try to have to give up a pick that can actually help you just to come off Nikola Vucevic's contract. The Bulls aren't going to do that. So we got to see how things go. Hopefully Vooch starts playing better like he was the first 6 games, and then we can limit this a little bit, right? We'll see. But thank you for leaving that voicemail, man. I appreciate it more than you know. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Chicago Bulls Central. I want to hear from you guys, though, man. What do you think about Billy Donovan switching up the lineup once Coby White is fully back and we get to see the lineup with Coby White fully back? What do you think about Vooch becoming a liability? And how do you think, because he's not going to be benched, what other options do you think the Bulls can have? Do you like my idea of more so tempering his minutes? What do you think about that? Drop those thoughts down below. I always want to hear from you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, stay safe out there, see red, and always go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.